So I don't usually do product reviews on this channel, because like by the time I've got my hands on something, it is old news. Just old news. I'm not at the cutting edge of anything, as you all probably know. In fact, I wasn't going to do any kind of review or unboxing on this at all until I got about a third of the way into the box and I realized, oh no, this is something special. You'd be forgiven for looking at the picture and the name and think that, oh yeah, this fin stack must be 110 millimeters high and this is a 120 millimeter fan. I certainly was when I looked at it, because I have trouble reading things. But it turns out it is not. The whole cooler, from the cold plate all the way up to the top of that fan, is 110 millimeters high. And there's a couple of important things there. One is that that's incredibly small for a dual tower cooler like this. And two, there's a cold plate on this. This is a $30 cooler from Thermalright. And there you go, Thermalright. This is their Silver Soul 110. Ironically, in black, not silver. It does also come in white and gray. If you've seen the other Thermalright gray coolers, it's got like a gray accent plate along the top, and then a fin stack is nickel-plated or aluminum or whatever. It actually does look silver. Anyway, the whole point of this is that this is going to be going in my gaming and VR PC right over there. So it's going to be replacing the 3 heat pipe Vetru cooler that I have in there right now, which is doing okay at cooling the 5600X3D, but it runs a little hotter than I'd like it to. I don't love that. So I picked this up with the hope that this is going to do a little bit better, and I thought I'd take you along for the ride while I open up this box. And I've got some benchmarks done on the Vetru, and then I'll install this, and we can do benchmarks on this as well. So here we go. Let's open this thing up. Oh yes, don't forget, it is a Thermalright, so we get unlock chill force here. This is the first part that made me think, oh, this is kind of special. First, 92 millimeter fan. If you've bought any Thermalright coolers in the last few years, this doesn't look like a Thermalright fan. It especially doesn't look like a Thermalright fan. You look at the front of it. This looks like a very serious fan. So I'm very curious to see what this can do. So then we take out this cardboard protector, and there's the fin stack. It's quite small. This is about where I got to when I said, oh, you know, this might make a good video. Just here's the fin stack. Look at that. Look at that little thing. It is downright adorable. Look at the size of that. That's so cute. And yes, there's that cold plate. Just as you would expect. So, let's get this thing unpacked the rest of the way, and then we'll get it onto the B550, the MSI B550-A Pro, and we'll get some benchmarks going. Okay, before I get too far into installation, I do want to mention that yes, there are indeed, well, if I can keep a hand on them, there are indeed 4 fan springs for the cooler. So yes, you can put an additional fan on this. I see a lot of folks online asking, how do I get a cooler off of my AM4 system without pulling the CPU out of the socket? It's my biggest fear. It's pretty easy, although it's probably not intuitive, which is why you're asking. It doesn't matter whether your cooler is attached with like a backplate design, or in this case, using a clip that clips into the standoffs on the motherboard. The principle is the same. What you want to do is break contact with the thermal paste that's at the bottom of this cooler. So to do that, you're going to want to hold down on the top of the cooler and then undo it. This one is particularly a pain in the butt to get off. There we go. So the cooler is unlatched, but I still have pressure applied down onto the cooler, so it's not going to pop off the heatsink, or it's not going to pop off the CPU. What you do is slide it back and forth on the CPU. You can feel it break contact with the thermal paste. At that point, you can let go. It's not going to pull the CPU up with it. And there you go. Cooler removed. It's that easy. So now that we've got our cooler all set, we've got our mounting hardware, we're going to put it, I've gotten the old battery off of the old motherboard. We're going to put the new cooler onto the motherboard. One of the things I've seen people have some fears and trepidations about is how do you mount a backplate based cooler, and this is a backplate based cooler. It's going to screw into its own backplate mounting system here. How do you mount this if your motherboard was using the clips on AM4 and it's already installed in your case? That is actually possible to do, and I'll show you how. So the thing about the backplate on the motherboard is it's rigid. I know that's shocking, but it means you only need to connect one screw at most for the whole backplate to stay in place. Also, there's a bit of a sticky backing on it. It's not like an adhesive, but it does sort of stick and conform to the back of the motherboard, so it may help keep it in place. But anyway, you should be able to pull out at least all the screws on one side on the mounting clip before the backplate is in any danger at all of coming off of the motherboard. Let me get a magnetic screwdriver here so I can get these out of here. So you can see we can just pull that clip right off, and there's our backplate mounting screws. So these standoffs go onto the backplate, and you see they just stay in place. And then this is probably not the correct way this goes around, it probably goes this way. But it doesn't matter, because we're just going to put one of these in for now. Although I could just put both of them in at the moment. Could just do this step and be done with it. Let me just double check that that's the direction these go on. Test fit, really easy, just hold it over here and see where these mounting tabs are going to line up, and yeah. So these go inwards like wishbones. That's not the word. They're concave rather than convex. So we just screw these into the backplate. This is just the existing AM4 backplate. And if you haven't noticed, this is this mounting peg on the like wishbone piece here that's in concave. You want this peg to be upwards so that, show you this here, so that this mounting screw hole here can screw into it. You have to kind of think a little bit in 3D. This is going to face downwards and interface with the peg that's sitting upright on the motherboard now. So now we can unscrew the other side. Get my magnetic screwdriver out here again. And there we go. There we go. Out comes that. You can see the backplate stays in place because it's rigid. Physics. We put our other two standoffs on here. It's really unfortunate that they colored the AM4 standoffs red. Although at least in this cooler, the Intel standoffs are blue. It'd be nicer if they just made the standoffs black and gray instead of red and blue. I think they'd fit in with more motherboards. Y'all have a zoom lens, I don't, so you can probably see what I'm doing better than I can. There we go. So now, that is rigidly mounted to the motherboard via the backplate. Make sure I'm getting this in focus. Yeah, so this is the cooler design is symmetrical, so there's no like logo or anything to get the wrong side up, which is cool. Yeah, so that's just going to go down like that onto those pegs that are now sitting on the motherboard, ready to accept the cooler. So let's get this thing installed. Best part. You know, the thermal conductivity of thermal paste is not great, but it's better than air. So this is a 5600X3D, so we're going to put one blob on top of the primary CCD, and a blob on the I/O die. And that's it. There we go. We are on top of those mounting pegs, so I'm going to tighten this a little bit to get it on the thread. Looks like we're on. Tighten this one a little bit to get it on the thread. We're on. And then it's just a matter of tightening it all the way down. That's fully tightened. And that's fully tightened. Okay. So cooler is installed. Now we put on the fan and connect up the electronics and we're ready to go. So I'll meet you all at that part. So there's the whole cooler fully installed. The fan is a pretty standard design. It just clips into the fin stack there. You can see that the clips go onto the far side mounting holes on the fan, which means you're limited to a particular thickness of fan. I think probably 25 millimeters. Which isn't terrible on a cooler like this. Like, you're not going to fit a larger fan in here, and you wouldn't want to put a thinner fan in because it just wouldn't perform as well. But I did notice that on the AXP120 that I built earlier and put on my PCI Express test bench, I did want to run a thicker fan in there. I wanted to run a Fantex T30, and because these clips assume a 25mm fan, they don't quite work right for the T30. But I don't think that's a showstopper for this cooler. You can see we don't have a ton of clearance on the front here, between the memory modules and the fin stack. Not a ton of clearance there. But overall, that's a lot of cooler for not a lot of space. I'm kind of impressed with that. We'll see how this performs. Let me get this thing reassembled and we can see what kind of cooling performance we get out of it.